Sawadee-kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and we're finishing up this iteration of our group learning program. We just went through 7 months of learning, and today is our very last class in this group learning program. We're going to be restarting from the very beginning on Sunday, where I'm going to be walking you through this book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. We're going to be going chapter by chapter each week on Sunday, and I'm going to help students to build up their life practice around the teachings of the Buddha on the path to enlightenment. This is a 7-month program that is Sunday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Thai time. And if you can't make the live classes, they're all recorded on Facebook, YouTube, or on the podcast, so that then you can watch the recordings after class if you ever miss the live class. By attending the classes, you're able to ask questions live and get help live, but sometimes you're going to potentially miss the class, so that's where it's nice to have the recordings that you can look to in order to continue to learn and develop your practice. You'll be able to get a version of this book through the website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can download it there, or you can take it and go print it, or you can order printed versions from Amazon if you like. So now that this is our last class, what we're going to be doing is just guided breathing mindfulness meditation. And if you've been joining regularly, or you've been joining or if this is your first time joining, I'd like to welcome all of you to our class today and invite you and welcome you to join for this guided meditation, where we're going to just be finishing out our group learning program with a guided meditation. And then after the meditation, I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha. If you have questions and you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put those into the comment section and I'll be able to see those and answer any questions that you have. If you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions or follow-up questions directly. So if you'd like to join for meditation, you might take a seated position, lying position, or standing position. These are the 3 positions that are useful during an online class. And if you're sitting, which is what most people do when they're first starting meditation, you can either be sitting on the floor or sitting in a chair. It's really up to you. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear with your legs lightly crossed. This helps to keep the circulation of the legs. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put that into his lap. If that's helpful for you, you can do it that way. But there's other options as well. You can put your palms on your thighs, on your knees. Some people like to put their palms up. It's really up to you. You would like the body to be comfortable, not luxurious and not painful, but comfortable. Then the upper body, you would like this to be nice and erect. By keeping the upper body erect, it keeps the mind attentive and alert during your meditation, and this way you can actually do the work to cultivate the mind and train the mind. Next, you might just decide to close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. If you know the chants that I'm about to do, you're welcome to join in with the chanting. I teach these chants as part of the group learning program, and if you've learned them, you're welcome to join along. If you haven't learned them, you can just maybe, like I mentioned, close the eyes and just start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. There's nothing mystical or magical about the chants. They're not prayer or worship. It's just a way to help ease the mind into meditation. So we'll go ahead and get started, and then I'll provide you some guidance once we get into the meditation itself. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโหโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. I'm here just for guidance, just reminding you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. This is your practice. So wherever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, establishing a nice, steady, natural breath. And when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that the mind moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Wherever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out.
เอออืมอืมอืม
อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาปุตตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิ สวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to gradually ease your way out of meditation, what I'm going to do is just transition the class over to opening up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha and the path to enlightenment. You can put those questions into the Facebook group or YouTube. You can even put them into Zoom as well. And in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions or follow-up questions directly. So if there's any questions that you guys have, feel free to let me know and I'll answer those for you. Looks like Amber has a question in Zoom. If you'd like to go ahead, Amber.
Good afternoon, Teacher David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon.
Okay, yes, I don't use these very often, so sometimes they don't work well. So I was reading last night, I forget exactly where, but I think you've mentioned it multiple times in the book, first book, about us coming to a point where we will trust all beings.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I read that, my unenlightened mind said, now that just isn't going to happen. Because, and an example would be I don't tell people my credit card number, and, unless I have some reasonable assurance that I'll protect it, because I don't want people to run up a bunch of bills and steal my number. So that is being untrusting of other people. But how do I mean, what do you mean exactly when you say we need to trust?
Sure. So trust always comes with discernment. You always need to have discernment in everything that you do. So it would be unwise for you to give out your credit card number to, countless people that you don't know or that you aren't familiar with. You would probably give your credit card maybe to your partner or your children or something like this, perhaps, but maybe not, right? So you need to always have discernment. What trust means is that you're not judging other people based on certain criteria and deciding that, I don't want to be around that person because maybe they have tattoos or maybe they have a hairstyle that I don't like, or they're wearing clothes that I don't like, or I can't trust this ethnicity, this particular group of people and their ethnicity. I can't trust them. So when we say trust all beings, what it means is that you've exercise some discernment and you know that you can trust certain people. So a good example that just happened with me today is that there's a particular print shop here in Chiang Mai who prints out the books that I have here. They're on Amazon, of course, but at the temple, I have a local print shop print these out. And I've been having them print them out for a good probably 3 years. And over time, I've incrementally increased the quantity that I'm printing of all the various books that I'm printing. And now I just printed about 50 books. And it turned out to be, quite expensive to print them all, but I'm making them available to the students and they're reimbursing me for the cost of those books. So this print shop, I ordered 50 books and I've been doing business with them now for a good 3-4 years or so. And there's so many books that I'm not going to be able to transport them on my little motorbike. So I asked them, would it be possible for you to deliver them to the temple for me? And they're like, sure, we can deliver them tomorrow. And I was like, perfect. How much is it? And then they explained to me how much. And then I was like, all right, great. I'll transfer you the money right now. And I just transferred them the money because they were going out of their way to bring the books to me. And I was like, well, let me show them that they're getting their money and I fully trust them. I've been doing business with them now for a while and I know that they're trustworthy because they've always made wonderful decisions and have done a great job printing out the books, and all our interactions have been fine. So in this situation, there's nothing but trust. There was never a time from the beginning that I first met this individual who owns this print shop and all her workers, and until now, there's been no reason why I shouldn't trust this person. They haven't given me any kind of indication for any reason that they would be untrustworthy. And I fully predict that tomorrow morning, just like they said, between 9:30 to 10 a.m., the books are going to show up at the temple and be fully delivered and printed out nice. So at no point in time that I ever like, maybe she's Thai, she's not going to, deliver these books, or she's not going to do the books right, or oh, she's a woman, or this person happens to also be in the same gender relationship. There was never a time where I was judging her or looking at her in a negative way for any reason whatsoever. She's always done great work for me, so I have nothing but trust for her. So when you put out trust where you trust others, then they will trust you too. So we've built this relationship now where I've always been able to trust her. Or say, for example, like today, another example, I went to a taco shop after I taught school, or I taught at the temple. I went to go get some food for me and my son. And there's this taco shop, and we eat at this taco shop every once in a while. And after I made my order, I sat down because I was taking it to go. And this gentleman comes in and he smiles, and I smile back at him. And he places his order and he says, hey, what did you order? And I was like, oh, I ordered some tacos. And he's like, oh, great, and then we just started chatting. We just started talking, and I fully trusted him. There's no reason for me to think he wants anything from me or he's malicious in any way. Mm-hmm. So in this situation, I can be open and loving and kind and compassionate. I don't have to have my mind obsessively thinking like, well, what does he want from me? Why is he being so kind? Why is he smiling at me? Why is he talking to me? What's he want from me? When you trust people, you can get rid of all of that judgment and all that negative thinking, and you can just have open, loving relationships with people. But then with discernment, you're not going to give out your credit card information to just anybody. And then also with discernment, if at any point somebody gives you an indication that they're untrustworthy, then you know not to trust them. So in this example with the gentleman at the taco shop, if at any point the conversation turned to, oh, well, it's nice to meet you, hey, can you buy my food for me? Or, can you, do this, that, or the other thing? I'd have some questions for them like, oh, why are you interested in me buying food? You don't have money? Or, what is it? Why is it that you need that? So you can just be loving and kind and gentle. And if somebody ever is lying to you, or they don't fulfill their agreements with you, like if you have a certain agreement and they break your agreement and they show you that they're untrustworthy, then in those situations, then you've learned through discernment not to trust this person. But you don't do it with judgment or negativity or looking down on the person. You just realize that it's a wise decision not to trust this particular individual based on what they've shown in terms of their decision making. And this is their karma, because it's the results of their decisions that they have done something untrustworthy, and now they've shown you that you can't trust them.
Okay, then, well, I've been caught up in this snag more than once already. It just had a new word that kind of applied to the same concept that you've mentioned before, and then that makes perfect sense. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So everything with the teachings of the Buddha, there's always an exercise of discernment. So when you're moving to a higher consciousness, what this means is that you're thinking through all the things that are happening in your life, and that you're making wise decisions based on the wisdom that you have. Where in the past, we might have thought like there's like a decision tree. Like if this happens, then I'll do this. And if this happens, I'll do this. And if this happens, I'll do this. Where what you're doing is you're taking in all the variables of a certain situation, thinking that through, contrasting it with the wisdom that you have on board, and then you make a wise decision based on what you know. And in a situation where you've met someone for the first time or you've known them regularly, you would like to just trust all beings, not being judgmental of them for any particular reason, but then always put discernment around it. Like I think the other example I gave you before when we were talking about this topic is like if you had children, young children, in a babysitter was showing up to take care of your children, and the babysitter showed up and they were intoxicated, you probably wouldn't allow them to take care of your children in that situation, right? Because you know with discernment that it would be unwise for you to have somebody, excuse me, you know that it would be unwise to have somebody with intoxication to take care of your young children. So you're not judging the person, looking down on them for drinking alcohol. It's not that you don't trust this individual. It's that with discernment, you realize that they're intoxicated, they've made that decision, and now you're going to make a decision to ensure that they're not taking care of your children. And you just do that politely, kindly, and friendly so that they can move on and you can ensure that your children are safe. All right, so it looks like, Christine, you have a question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Teacher David.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, I have a question that's not very well formulated, to be honest. I'm having a hard time bringing it to a question, so I'm going to try my best, and I hope you can get me. So, lately, so to start with, I guess the question is about the sense of self. And about my sense experience. So often I'm just sitting there, and if I sit on the balcony in the evening and I listen to the sounds, and maybe I become aware of the surroundings around me, and I kind of, it's like it's happening more in slow motion when I relax, that sometimes I'm just all drawn into the sounds or then into the sights. And sometimes I just close my eyes and I listen to the sound. It's like almost there's no body, but then there is a body. And then also there is always this self-referential image of me sitting in these surroundings. And I'm kind of wondering if all this would dissolve, would that be what is the universal consciousness? Or am I just going in a total mental rant here?
Yeah, the Buddha never taught anything about a universal consciousness or collective consciousness. This is something that people are talking about nowadays. There's no such thing as a collective consciousness or a universal consciousness. There's individual beings that have a consciousness, because what consciousness is a mind. So there's individual beings that have individual minds. There's certain, wide held thoughts or things that we all kind of feel are important. Like we all kind of feel, or not all of us, but majority of the population feels that it's wise to talk polite and kind and friendly and respectful to people, even though they might not be able to actually do it all the time. By and large, we kind of feel that that's wise. That's not really a collective consciousness. That's more of how individuals tend to think and how we feel, which is wise. So when you're sitting somewhere and your mind is kind of thinking about things and having certain thoughts, this is just your consciousness, your mind having various thoughts, and you don't have to think of them as being part of a collective consciousness or universal consciousness. It's just your thoughts and what you're thinking in that particular moment.
Thank you. And then, just like I guess what I'm trying to point at and cannot really is like I do this meditation. I'm not the body. I'm not the thoughts. And then I'm like, but whenever I close my eyes, there is still this self-referential image in my mind. And actually, yes, there is this body. And I don't quite get it. Like, I'm not the body. I get it that I should not identify with it. But then it's like, okay, I'm this consciousness, that's this awareness that's just aware of the body, but I'm always connected with the body, and I can only hear from through my senses, like through my ears or see through my eyes. It's like if this is gone, I'm just, there's just no way how this consciousness can be there.
Yeah, so
I don't know if I make any sense.
Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to let go of personal existence view and realize non-self, but the mind's not quite there all the way yet. So you understand that there is a body, and you understand that that's not you. That's not who you are. It's just physical structure. So that's good. You got that. So there's this mind, and it seems like you're not quite sure yet whether that's you or not. You're still kind of thinking that maybe that mind might be you. But understand that self-identity, like I know you, like, I am German, that identity, that's not you. Or I am a PhD doctor, right? That's not you. That's not who you are. That's just something you've accomplished. Or I am a girlfriend, that's not who you are, that's just a role that you're fulfilling. Or I am a daughter, that's not you, that yes, you have been brought into this world, but this I am is not, what you should be clinging to. You shouldn't cling to any of this I am. And I don't know what other I ams you might have in there, but you're not interested in clinging to any of that, thinking that that's who you are, but realize that you're fulfilling these certain roles. So this mind isn't you, but it's here with this body. There's this mind and body that's here on this planet, and there's currently an existence, and we're referring to that being as Christine, but this isn't who you are. So you just need to get to the point where if somebody says something about this physical body, either positively or negatively, it doesn't affect you, that you're just completely comfortable with that. And if you ever notice that somebody's saying something either positive or negative, and you're having conditioned feelings, either conditioned pleasant feelings or painful feelings, then you know that the mind is still clinging to this body, thinking that this is who you are. And then the same thing with the mind. If you're noticing that someone says, "Oh, Christine, you're so kind, you're so friendly, you're so loving," and if you get all these pleasant feelings, then you know that the mind is still clinging to maybe that identity of being kind, loving, and polite, or what have you. But then if somebody says like, "Oh, Christine, you're the most horrible person I've ever met," or, that thing that you shared with me that was going on in Phuket, or not Phuket, in Copenhagen when you were gone in Germany, with the dog, when that was going on, if you felt like displeasure or uncomfortableness or anything like that, that's because the mind was attempting to be perceived in a certain way amongst the people in your community. And whenever those things arise, you would like to cut those off and cut those off and cut those off, and realize like, no, people are going to be judgmental because they're not on the path. They're not learning to be non-judgmental. So that means people are going to be judgmental. And just because they're judgmental doesn't mean I need to have painful feelings because of that. I can let go of this identity wanting to be perceived in the world a certain way and realize that some people are going to love me and think I'm the best thing that ever. And then there's going to be some people that hate me and think that I'm the most horrible person that's ever walked the planet of the earth. And that's just impermanence. And rather than clinging to the body or the mind and wanting people to perceive you either as your self-image or self-identity in a certain way, you just let that go and realize that, okay, if those people love me, great, then they can see the certain qualities that I'm trying to cultivate, and that's wonderful. If these people hate me and they think I'm the worst person ever that's walked the face of the earth, then okay, that's their opinion, and it's probably not wise for me to associate with them, and I can just ignore that, and I can just go on with my life because I know for myself that I'm trying to cultivate my mind and be a better and better person. And if they're being judgmental and looking at me in a negative way, then I'm just going to go away from them and realize that it's unwise for me to associate with people that are so judgmental of me. But then in that moving forward, you would like to maintain your peacefulness, your contentedness, and your joy, not allowing your mind to be affected by how other people think of you, either your self-image or self-identity.
Thank you very much. I'm definitely not quiet there. I still get some pleasant and some unpleasant feelings, even though I know I should not be getting them. But yeah, I guess my mind is trying to figure out. I guess it cannot be figured out with the mind, right? Somehow, like what am I if I'm not the mind and not the body?
Okay, so a couple of things here. You mentioned that, I shouldn't be letting my mind do that or something like that, or I shouldn't be doing that. Well, because your mind does have personal existence view to a certain degree, your mind is doing that. So don't think of it like, oh, I'm bad because my mind is getting upset when my personal existence view is triggered. Just understand like, okay, this is where you're at in your practice. You've been working on personal existence view. You've got some of it eliminated, but there's still a little bit more there for you to eliminate. So no big deal. That's what you're working on, right? So this personal existence view that is still in the mind, to a certain extent, it needs to be triggered in order for you to cut it off and let it go and uproot it out of the mind. So there's certain things that you can be doing, like breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity to train the mind to let go. You can be doing that meditation to realize non-self, and that can train the mind to let it go. You can be reflecting on the fact that there is no self, that even though there is a body and there is a mind, that there is no self here. But then to a certain degree, your personal existence view has to be triggered enough times that it starts to arise discontentedness, and you can notice those bodily sensations and you can cut it off and let it go. And that's like trimming the wild bush back and uprooting it out of the mind. So your mind, it sounds like you're still grasping, wanting to find a self. Like, where is this self? If I'm not the body and I'm not the mind, then what am I? Tell me, what am I, right? This is the mind just still grasping, wanting to hold on to something. And there's nothing there to hold on to, but the mind is still grasping for something. So there is a body, there is a mind. We call this a person. The combination of these two things, we call a person. And then we labeled that, right? Your mom or your dad or whoever labeled this being called Christine. And that's what people have been calling this being. But this being, Christine, it's just a body, it's just a mind. We're calling it a person. It's a human being. It's here for a period of time. This being, Christine, is impermanent. It's not permanent, but you can't identify anything that is Christine. So the clothing that you're wearing isn't Christine. That skin on your body is not Christine. The hair, the bones, the muscle tissue, the fluid, none of that individual bits and pieces are Christine, but the mind keeps grasping, like, what am I? So it's important to just not be anything, to be nothing, to be a nobody. We call this a human being, But you shouldn't even identify with that, because if somebody says all human beings are lovely and kind, you might get pleasant feelings. And if someone says all human beings are horrible and terrible, then you might get painful feelings around that. So you would like to not identify with anything and just exist. Exist in the present moment, being peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, not needing to hold on to any kind of identity whatsoever.
Thank you very much. I think you actually hit the nail on the head when you said my mind is still trying to find this self that I'm trying at the same time to prove to myself that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that goes in these never-ending mental loops.
Yeah, it's
okay,
it's almost like a downward spiral, right? Like the mind wants to find a self and then it can't find one. And then it's looking over here and looking over there and looking over there. It just keeps going around in a circle and it can't find it. So you got to get rid of that loop and just realize, hey, there's nothing here. There's a human being, this thing right here. We call it a human being. And this being is here in existence, but it's not permanent. And none of this stuff is me. Nothing belongs to me because there is no me here.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess it's really what's happening. I'm still looking for this one permanent thing that would be behind all this. Thank you. This was really helpful.
Yeah, keep thinking about it, keep meditating, and whenever your personal existence view gets triggered, try to catch it as a bodily sensation and cut it off and let it go, because the more you trim that back, you'll eventually uproot the personal existence view, and then you can just always reside peaceful and joyful no matter what your contact you're having about the body, the self-image, or self-identity.
Thank you very much, Teacher David.
Yeah, you're welcome, Christine. Great conversation. Looks like Francis has a question here. Go ahead, Francis.
Okay, hi, Teacher David. You can hear me?
Yes, I sure can.
Okay, now I got two questions. They are kind of related. It's all pertaining to what you shared just now with Christine. Let's say, for example, okay, the unpleasant feelings, I can resonate with that to just cut it off and all that. But if someone were to say that, oh, you're such a loving, kind person, that is supposed to be a pleasant feeling. So in this case, to dissociate my mind and body from this pleasant feeling, can I just be indifferent and say, okay, that's just a pleasant feeling, but it's not me, not mine, and let it go? Is that the way it's supposed to be?
No, if you allow the mind to have that conditioned pleasant feeling, like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria, then you'll get that pleasant feeling based on the condition or based on the fulfillment of somebody is talking to you in an agreeable way. And if you allow your mind to get that conditioned pleasant feeling, then you're going to get the conditioned painful feeling. It's only a matter of time, because when this condition changes, when somebody is no longer talking to you in a pleasant way, in an agreeable way, those cravings are still there, that you're wanting agreeable contact because you got those pleasant feelings. And now with that craving there, because it's not permanent, that people are going to talk to you permanently pleasing, now when somebody says something degrading or disparaging about this self-image or self-identity, you're going to experience pleasant or painful feelings. So that's why I use the word discontent, discontented, and discontentedness, rather than suffering related to the teachings of the Buddha, which I know you've studied with other teachers before. Oftentimes people are translating dukkha over to suffering. But when you only understand it through that word, then we think that it's only the painful feelings that we need to deal with. But if you don't understand the full totality of what this word dukkha is, which is discontentedness or discontent or discontented, it's the pleasant, painful, and neither painful nor pleasant feelings. Because as long as you allow the mind to get those conditioned pleasant feelings, it's only a matter of time before it gets the painful feelings. Let me give you an example that you can understand, because sometimes these are separated so far away that the unenlightened mind doesn't see it. let's say you're interested in getting a job, and I think you're retired now, so that's probably long in your past. But let's just say you were interested in getting a new job, and you chased after this job, and you chase it and chase it and chase it, and you got this perfect job. And it's like the perfect location, the perfect company, the perfect title, the perfect salary, the perfect coworkers. Everything's perfect about this job, and you got so excited and so happy that you got this brand new job, and you allowed the mind to get those conditioned pleasant feelings. Well, now say you work at that company for 5 years and you've had a great time the whole 5 years. You could work at this place for the rest of your life. It's going so well. Well, let's just say that the company goes through some financial difficulties and they need to lay you off or they need to fire you because of what's going on in the company. Well, now 5 years later, you're going to feel sad. You're going to feel angry or frustrated or irritated. And because it's 5 years later, you don't associate that those painful feelings that you're experiencing started all the way back with the pleasant feelings that you allowed the mind to get when you first got the job. Because you allowed the mind to get those conditioned pleasant feelings, those conditioned pleasant feelings are only going to be there as long as you have this job, because the mind's clinging and craving and holding on to this job. As soon as things change, because that condition that you're basing your pleasant feelings on is not permanent, as soon as things change, i.e., you lose the job, now you're going to be in those painful feelings. So if you only cut off and eliminate the painful feelings, you're never going to eliminate the painful feelings fully, because as long as the mind's still being allowed to get those conditioned pleasant feelings, it's going to end up in the painful feelings at some point.
Okay, so in this case, if let's say in this example of getting a job and having a pleasant feeling, so how do we cut it off, in terms of, you mentioned, should we just cut it off? How do we do that? You just say, oh, it's okay, or whatever not.
So this is where you need to understand right mindfulness from the Eightfold Path and right effort. Right mindfulness is those 4 foundations of mindfulness, that you understand the bodily sensations and have awareness of those bodily sensations that are occurring before the mind becomes discontent, either pleasant feelings or painful feelings. There's going to be some bodily sensation, even the neither painful nor pleasant. There's some bodily sensation that is occurring. You may or may not be aware of it right now, but you need to develop your meditation practice of breathing mindfulness meditation to the point where you can be aware of those bodily sensations that are occurring before the mind experiences the feeling, because the second foundation is the feeling. Now the mind's angry, or now the mind's happy, or now the mind's excited. There's some feeling that's coming in, but there's a bodily sensation that's happening before that. So when you're aware of the bodily sensation with mindfulness or right mindfulness, then you apply right effort, which is to cut off and let go of the arising discontent feeling as a bodily sensation. And you'll be able to be aware of the bodily sensations more readily when you're practicing breathing mindfulness meditation and developing your mindfulness. And you'll be able to cut it off and let it go as a bodily sensation easier and easier the more you accumulate the benefits of breathing mindfulness meditation. So this is all working together. The mindfulness and right effort is working together, and your meditation of breathing mindfulness meditation and being observant of the mind with mindfulness all day long, so that whenever there's a conditioned pleasant feeling that's starting to arise, there's going to be some bodily sensation. When I used to experience these, it was usually tingling across the shoulders or the back of the neck and the back of the skull. You can kind of feel it kind of tingling over the head, like this pleasant feeling is starting to arise and you can feel it as a bodily sensation, and you would like to cut that off and just remain neutral. If somebody compliments you and says, "Oh, Francis, you're such a kind gentleman. I really enjoy spending time with you so much." Well, you might say thank you, or I appreciate your kind words, or that's so polite of you, or whatever you say to reply to them based on your personality, or you might just smile, right? But you're not allowing the mind to get a conditioned pleasant feeling in that situation. So therefore, when somebody says something negative or degrading to you, then you won't get a conditioned painful feeling either, because you didn't allow the mind to get the conditioned pleasant feeling. It won't get the conditioned painful feeling either. But if you notice a bodily sensation with that, when someone's degrading you or being disparaging, then you would like to cut that off too. And the same thing with the job. If you notice that you're applying for the job and you notice the mind's craving with the mindfulness, you notice it's longing, yearning. Maybe you're like hastily putting together your resume, you're hastily looking for a new job, you're hastily calling, you're like obsessively looking at your phone to see if the company has called you back to tell you whether you got an interview or the job yet, where you see the mind longing, yearning, and craving like that. That's where you, with mindfulness, you're observant of it. And then with right effort, you restrain the mind and you pull it back so that you don't allow the mind to keep longing and yearning and craving towards something.
Okay, I got it now because I was reading the chapter on the volume 1 on the mindfulness of breathing meditation. And some of the words you just mentioned also resonates with what you meant, the right effort and right mindfulness. I got that. This evening I was reading that. I got that internalized in myself. Then in that chapter, there was this thing about when you are aware of the unwholesomeness of things coming along the way, in your mind, you can cut it off. So, but then when you have something like a wholesome thing, like, I have joy and delight in learning the Dharma, that is very wholesome. I like to cultivate that. So, in my mind, why would I want to cut it off? It is still a very good, wholesome state of mind, joy and delight in learning the Dharma. So, what is your thought on that?
Okay, so in meditation, you're going to cut off anything that arises because we're training our mind, we're exercising the mind, we're getting the mind able to practice mindfulness, which is awareness of mind, and concentration, which is focusing on the breath. And you're trying to train the mind to more and more easily let things go, to cut things off and let them go. So in meditation, we're training in one way, which is to cut off anything. You're still going to have thoughts in meditation. Even when you're enlightened, you're going to have an occasional thought, but you'll notice it right away and you'll cut it off and bring the mind right back. Where early in practice, you're usually getting bombarded with thoughts. So your goal is to cultivate the qualities of mindfulness and concentration and to be able to easily let things go. That's what you're doing in meditation. In daily life, you're only cutting off unwholesome thoughts. So if you see a craving, a longing, a yearning coming up in the mind, you cut that off. Or if you are interested in killing, or you're wanting to kill, or you're stealing, or sexual misconduct, or lying, or substances that cause heedlessness, where you see those cravings arising in the mind, you cut them off and you let them go and you restrain the mind. But if you have a thought like, I'd like to learn the Dhamma, I'd like to read the book, that's a wholesome thought. You go forward with that. Or, hey, I'd like to take my wife out to dinner today. Hey, go forward with that. If that's a wholesome thought that you're having, then go ahead and go forward with that. So it's just like a professional athlete, that a professional athlete will train in one way and they will perform their sport another way. So if I'm a pole vaulter, I might choose to do weight training, cardiovascular training, agility training, and things like this. And then I go out and perform my sport and I do pole vaulting, which is completely opposite of what I'm doing in the gym. So the same thing is when you're meditating in one way. And then in daily life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts that arise. Anything wholesome, you can go forward with that.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher David. I got everything internalized now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Pleased to help you. Let me see if we have any questions on our platforms here. If someone is watching on Facebook or has a question on Facebook, I apologize that it looks like there's some impermanence with Facebook. I'm not able to see any of the questions there. My screen's kind of blanked out, and even though I'm refreshing, it's not letting me see. So I apologize for anybody who's in Facebook that might have a question. I can't see it. I don't see any in YouTube, and that takes care of all of our questions in Zoom. So what I'll do is just thank all of you for joining for today's class, and at the same time invite you to our future classes, because we're going to be restarting the group learning program this Sunday. It's the 13th of August. We're going to be starting from the very beginning, and over a period of 7 months, I'm going to be walking you through this entire book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. Our first class is going to be starting at 9 p.m. Thai time, and every Sunday at 9 p.m. Thai time, And then every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Thai time, we're going to be having classes. And if any classes you can't make it, you can just watch the recording, because that's going to be in Facebook, YouTube, or on the podcast, and you can watch the recording. If you attend live, you're able to ask questions and get help. But even if you watch the recordings, you can still ask questions through the Facebook group. You can send me a private message. You can even schedule personal guidance. So there's ways for you to get help even if you're just listening to the recordings. So I'd like to thank all of you guys for joining for the group learning program over the last 7 months, whether you've joined one class or you've joined all of them, or you've been listening to the replays. I'd like to thank you all for your dedication and diligence to learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha, and at the same time invite you to join for the group learning program coming up this Sunday and on Wednesday. I'll see you on Sunday or perhaps Wednesday. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.